Hello, 1, 2, testing. Hello.
Why did you say hello like
1,
that?
2, testing. Yeah, I'm doing a live today. As the second iteration of the posts that I've done a couple of days and couple of weeks. And of course, most of you know that these posts have to do with the immigration system. And just looking at it from my vantage point, which is a Christocentric point. Yeah, I've had several conversations with my good friends and colleagues. Some conversations were good, others were difficult, but I guess any society that's really gonna grow will need to learn to grasp with these uncomfortable and difficult conversations. And that's the purpose of this that's the purpose of this live, to really take the conversation further. But of course, I'm going to share with you guys some of my deepest convictions around this whole campaign, I would call it. Some of my deepest, I'll call it my dialogues. Let's call it, for argument's sake, Mwanza dialogues. So my heart is first to share with you guys where it all comes from. As a foreign national who could also say that I could have lived and experienced enough in this country to be an insider, yet an outsider. I remember before the 2014 elections, I was invited at the NG Cake to there was a prayer session there, and I was asked to just talk about my analysis of the state of affairs then, as an outsider but an insider. And I feel like I'm speaking from that same vantage point at this very hour to say, I am as much a foreign national as a local, in the sense that my experiences give me that vantage point of being a local. But of course, my heritage is Zambian, so I bring these two together. I hold them in tension. And therefore, as I speak, I want to speak from that particular middle, the middle. That's acknowledges just how beautiful this country has been to my family and I, and how really it's been both a refuge, especially for my wife and that sickness, but also a mission field for the work that I've done and I keep doing in this country. Yeah, therefore, when I look at these things, I want to look at it, just frame a very broader picture and paint in very broad strokes around what this is about. So I will just share, starting with saying, I think South Africans are awesome people. Some of my great friends, the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, some of my closest friends have been here in this country, and people that maybe live in this country from outside, other foreign nationals. So that already gives me that place of saying I really and truly appreciate what this land is and what it has been to me and my family. In the same breath, I also want to say that it's important to name things for what they are. This country has a problem with violence, and that problem obviously is not innate in the people of South Africa. It's not that the people of South Africa are just violent, but it's an emotional systems problem, a problem that comes from far back. It's this conversation I have with so many of my friends and say, guys, 30 years in a life of a country or a society, of a nation, is almost like 5 minutes in the life of a person. It's too short. A lot of people that experience indignities and the traumas of apartheid, maybe 80-90% of those people are still alive today. So meaning they are living in that same reality, as it were. So because of that, this society is a traumatized society. It's a society in trauma. It's a society that needs healing. And of course, two things play in healing. One is being deliberate about addressing the actual problem and the actual trauma. And the other one is a function of time. So time plus therapy brings healing. And I know we started with, the country did a very good job in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but I think that tackled one area, leaving a whole host of other areas untouched. For instance, that was primarily a political remedy to the problem. Both the commissions or the conversations that happened leading up to the Democratic Dispensation, plus the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, in all its splendor, just tackled one area, and that area is predominantly political, really the political area. But the effects of that time ran deeper than just the political. They went very, very deep. Obviously, they had serious and significant sociological effects, economic effects, and religious and familial effects, and so on and so forth. For instance, one legacy that one could talk about without flinching is a legacy of fatherlessness. This country is by and large a fatherless nation, and you know what that means. When there's no father, it's a cascading effect of negative things happening in a society that is not fathered, because fathers really play a very significant role in maybe stabilizing the anxiety levels of society. And this society is very anxious. It's very chronically anxious in an acute way. Like if the levels of anxiety are very high on a normal day, which usually societies don't experience those things. But this society does experience chronic levels of acute anxiety, which is a unique South African phenomenon. And I think that needs to be really, really, really dealt with. And I think as I look at that, when I talk about the things that I talk about, that I've been talking about, things I've been writing about, I come from that vantage point to say we need to name this problem. And this problem is called the problem of violence. What the organizations are doing, March and whatever other organizations are doing, yes, there's so much legitimacy in that. But the problem is there is a faulty perception, and that perception is so much influenced by the violence in this society. Much as the problem with immigration is a problem, as it were, but obviously the state of this society determines how that is dealt with. We can say, for instance, the United States, especially in the second dispensation of Donald Trump, really has experienced a lot of these immigration crackdowns, and a lot of people have been deported, maybe in the hundreds of thousands, or maybe millions, who knows, have been deported. But you don't see people doing it as mobs, because there's a level of sanity in that society. But here, what is the problem is, one, the problem that is a genuine problem is being fixed in a way or in ways that denigrates the whole of society. And the worst part of it, especially for people like me who are professing Christians, is that I have a Christocentric lens. I have to see things through the eyes of Christ, meaning the ideas of the dignity of every human person are at the center of every political, sociological, or whatever activistic thing that I can do. Because those ideas that every human person, every person here in South Africa is an image of God, govern how I deal and relate with everyone. I can enforce the law and still honor and respect the dignity of a person that I'm enforcing the law against. Or I can enforce the law in such a way that the person that I'm enforcing against is literally stripped of their dignity and their humanity. And I think partly is what is happening here. And I know that this can be crazy, maybe to land me into trouble. But the question is, how can I be a follower of Christ and still be indifferent towards the indignities of the people that share my image, which is ultimately the image of God and the image of Christ? So those are some of the things that I think we really need to deal with and deal with seriously, because failure to do with those things is failure to be Christocentric, is failure to be a true disciple of Jesus. And I think things have reached a place where here in South Africa, silence is becoming complicit. We cannot be part of the church and just be silent in the face of this. I had a very heated conversation with a very good friend of mine. And I think the last question I asked is, are you South African first, or you're a disciple of Christ first? Because that matters. If you are a disciple of Jesus first, you see the world through the dignity of the human beings. That's what you do. If you are South African first, you see the world through the grievances that a lot of South African poor have, by and large. And therefore, you, without knowing or realizing, you endorse, whether you participate in it or not, but you endorse this mindset that the end justifies the means. Provided we so-called clean our nation, whoever gets hurt is collateral damage. I think as believers, we cannot ascribe to such a mindset. But that's a mindset that I see a lot of believers are ascribing to, whether they know it or they do not know it. I think as Christians, especially South African Christians, need to be unequivocal about this. You come out straight without being ambiguous to say, this is wrong. And I think as many of us come out and say, this is wrong, I think we will have a solid enough voice to push back against this wave of hate, this mob psychology that is really, not a web of chaos that is really shaping this nation. I mean, this nation needs a dissenting voice, and that voice should be Christian, because we have the best philosophy or best theology as to the value of a human person. I think there's no any other theological tradition, whether Islam or any other Hindu, Shinto, or whatever, that really has a greater vision of a human person than Christianity has. And therefore, you cannot claim to be Christian if you don't value the least and the least of these Jesus' brothers who are God's image. And in this society, the least of the least of the least are the undocumented immigrants, because they do not have any protection whatsoever. Probably they do not even have any constitutional rights, so to speak. Those are the people we need to stand for. They may not look like us, they may not speak like us, but they are us, because we all share the same image, and that is the image of Christ. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Oops.